What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am bringing you a combo tutorial for Kashtira. I was supposed to give this to you guys Monday, but we were slapped in the face with a ban list, so I gave you my reaction to that instead. But today is the official OTS release for Photon Hypernova, so technically it is day one. Let's go ahead and show you guys the combos. So for combo number one, it is going to be a one-card Unicorn combo. In my opinion, Unicorn should be the expensive one because it is the one that you kind of really need more than anything else. And for those of you that don't know, the main selling point, or one of the main selling points of Kashtira, is to lock out the zones on your opponent's side of the field. So up in the corner somewhere over there, we are going to put a number of zones locked, just so you guys don't lose track. Since we're not actually playing against an opponent, it's really easy to lose track of that. So let's go ahead and show you guys what we do. We're going to start by special summoning out our Unicorn because we control no monsters, and then once per turn when Unicorn's on field, we can activate its effect to add a Kashtira spell. Here we're going to add the new Kashtira Theosis, which if you guys don't know what this does, it is essentially like a pseudo E-Tele. We can activate it targeting a Kashtira that we control, and special summon one from our deck with a different attribute, which is exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to go ahead and activate it and go ahead and summon the Unicorn, and target the Unicorn, and that is going to let us summon out the Fenrir from our deck. Now, once per turn when Fenrir is on field, we can use its effect to add a Kashtira monster. So here we are going to add the copy of Riseheart. Before we use the Riseheart though, we want to go ahead and overlay both of these into a copy of Shangri-Ira in the extra monster zone. I'm just a little bit out of space on my deck, so this is the extra monster zone. And what we are going to do now is special summon out the Riseheart, because as long as you control a Kashtira, it can summon itself. Now, once per turn during the main phase when this card is on the field, you can go ahead and banish a Kashtira card from your deck. We're going to go ahead and banish the Big Bang, and that does a couple of things. That modulates his level up to 7, and it also banishes the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Once that resolves, we do have a chain that we can kind of build here. We can activate Shangri-Ira as Chainlink 1 and Big Bang as Chainlink 2. Shangri-Ira as cost has to target a zone that we can go ahead and lock on our opponent's side of the field. So we're going to go ahead and resolve the Big Bang first, which lets us add a material that is under a Kashtira XYZ to our hand, and then optionally special summon it, but we are going to special summon it. You can do either or, doesn't matter because of what's going to happen on the standby phase of the next turn. So in this case, it's just going to be the Unicorn. And then Chainlink 1 is going to resolve, and now we have one zone locked. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the Riseheart, and we're going to overlay it into the Riseheart. Now, a Riseheart is the big boss monster. It does a lot of things. First and foremost, it acts as a macrocosmos on legs, which means any card that would be sent to the graveyard is banished instead. It has an additional effect, which is mandatory, that anytime a card is banished, you can attach a banished card to it as material. And finally, once per turn, quick effect, as it has when it has 3 materials, you can detach 3 materials to target a card on the field and banish it face down, which means when we eventually get enough materials on this, we can go ahead and interrupt our opponent, which will also activate the Shangri-Ira to lock another zone. Now, the reason that we are able to overlay it over 1 is the condition for the summon of a Riseheart is as long as you've activated the effect of a Shangri-Ira this turn, you can go ahead and summon it on top of any Kashtira monster. Now, that's going to be our end board, but not for long, because when we pass our turn and enter our opponent's standby phase, Shangri-Ira has another effect which special summons a Kashtira from your deck, which we will go ahead and do to summon out the Fenrir. So now off of just one Unicorn, we have at least one zone locked, a Macrocosmo on legs, which will eventually become an interruption. When it does become an interruption, it will lock another zone. We have Fenrir, which when they activate a monster effect, we can target a card that is face up and banish it face down, which will lock another zone. And then we have Unicorn, which is when they activate a monster effect, we can look at their extra deck and banish a card face down, which will also lock another zone. So that is how many zone locks? That should be 4 zones locked, plus macro on legs and interruptions with both the Unicorn and the Fenrir, so that is pretty good for one card. Let's show you guys another one. Combo number 2 is going to be another 1-card Unicorn combo, and there's actually 2 different ways that you can end this combo, so consider that 2 combos if you want, but I'm just going to show you guys both at the same time because it only changes one thing. So we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to start out with the Unicorn, special summoning it because we control no monsters, and activating its effect to search our Theosis. We can then go ahead and activate the Theosis, targeting the Unicorn, which will summon out our Fenrir from our deck, and allow us to use the Fenrir effect to add our copy of Riseheart. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to make the Shangri-Ira once more, and then we can special summon our Riseheart and banish our Big Bang. We'll banish the top 3 cards off our opponent's deck for the resolution of Riseheart, and that will become Chainlink 1 Shangri and Chainlink 2 Big Bang. Big Bang is going to go ahead and add a material again to our hand and then special summon it, and Shangri-Ira is going to lock a zone, so we now have one zone locked. Now, instead of going into the Arise Heart, if you know what you're up against and you don't necessarily need to banish the extra, or don't necessarily need to put a macro on board, you can go ahead and banish their extra deck instead and go into a copy of Diablosis the Mind Hacker. What Diablosis the Mind Hacker does is you can detach one material, and this is going to allow you to look at your opponent's extra deck and banish a card face down, which when you do, we will be able to Chainlink 1 Shangri-Ira and Chainlink 2 Diablosis. Diablosis banishes cards face down off the top of the deck, equal to the number of face down banished cards your opponent already has, once per turn when a card is banished face down. So because you have the 3 off Rise Heart and the 1 that you just did off of the Mind Hacker itself, you're going to banish 4 face down, and then Chainlink 1 is going to resolve and you're going to lock another zone, so that's 2 zones locked. But it doesn't end there, because since this in this chain banished more cards face down, on a new chain you get to activate the Shangri-Ira once more and lock a 3rd zone, so now you have 3 zones locked. Now, you can go ahead and pass to your opponent, and that is going to activate the effect of Shangri-Ira, which can go ahead and summon out a Fenrir from the deck during the standby phase, just so you have a little bit of another form of interruption, which will then lock a 4th zone as well. Now, the reason I said that this is kind of 2 combos is if we backtrack a little bit, so let's go back to our turn. So we have 3 zones locked, we ripped a card out of the extra deck. If we decide that the locked zones isn't really that important, we know what they're playing, we saw their extra deck. If we don't think that we need to keep their zones locked, because we were able to activate the effect of Shangri-Ira this turn, we can go ahead and just overlay it into the Arise Heart, and even though we lose out on the zone locks, we gain a Macro Cosmo on legs, and when another card is banished, we have another interruption as well, so it really depends on what you're against, but that is going to be combo 2/2.5. For combo number 3, we are moving into the 2-card combos, and that is because unfortunately I don't believe there is a 1-card Fenrir combo. All the 1-card combos are going to be with Unicorn, or I guess the Field Spell, because the Field Spell can become the Unicorn. So we're going to go ahead and move on to 2 cards, but if you know a 1-card Fenrir combo, go ahead and let me know, because I have been racking my brain and unable to come up with anything. So here's what this one is going to be. It's going to be Fenrir and Birth. We're going to start by special summoning out our Fenrir and activating its effect to search for Unicorn. Now we can activate Birth, which lets us normal summon a level 7 with no tributes, so we can go ahead and normal summon out the Unicorn. We can activate the Unicorn effect to add our copy of Kashtira Theosis, which we can then activate targeting either the Unicorn or the Fenrir, does not matter, to summon out the Rise Heart. Now, before using the Rise Heart effect, we're going to do what we've always been doing, and we are going to go ahead and make the copy of Shangri-Ira, and we can activate the effect of Rise Heart now that Shangri-Ira is on board, because we want to make sure that we lock the zones, and we can use the Rise Heart to go ahead and summon out, or send out the Big Bang. That will banish the top 3 cards of our opponent's deck, and then that will trigger Shangri-Ira as Chainlink 1 and Big Bang as Chainlink 2. Shangri-Ira is going to go ahead, and this time we're specifically going to add back the Fenrir, and special summon it, and then now we have 1 zone locked. Now here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into the Mind Hacker first, and the reason we're going to do that is because we want to actually put the Fenrir in the graveyard really quickly here. So we're going to go ahead and use its effect, detaching the Fenrir. That is going to allow us to look at our opponent's extra deck and banish a card face down, again triggering Shangri as Chainlink 1 and Mind Hacker as Chainlink 2. We're going to banish 4 cards off the top of our opponent's deck face down and lock the 2nd zone. In a new chain, because this banished more cards face down, we will lock a 3rd zone with the Shangri-Ira, and then what we can do is we can go ahead and activate our Birth and summon out our copy of Fenrir. Now, because we have a Kashtira on field, we can go ahead and overlay it into the Arise Heart with just 1 material, because we did use the effect of the Shangri. So now we have 3 zones locked, our opponent is under a macro, and when we pass our turn to our opponent, the Shangri-Ira is going to go ahead and summon out either the Unicorn or the Fenrir, so either one of these 2 from the deck, and it just depends on the matchup. You know what they're playing, so if you want to banish more cards from the extra deck, you go Unicorn. If you're more worried about hitting cards on field, you go Fenrir. But so off just 2 cards, we were able to lock 3 zones, rip a card out of the extra deck, banish 9 cards, 8 cards out of our opponent's deck face down, and end on a macro, which will eventually be another interruption. Now, for combo number 4, we are going to be showing you a 2-card combo with Unicorn and Rise Heart. This combo is actually very, very interchangeable, because the Unicorn can be the Field Spell, and the Rise Heart can be either the Kashtira Scareclaw or the Kashtira Tearlament. Doesn't really matter, or it can also be the field spell. You can have Unicorn Field Spell Rise Heart. There's so many different combinations to do this, so let's show you guys what the end board is going to be. We're going to go ahead and special out the Unicorn, which as always we're going to activate its effect to add our copy of Kashtira Theosis. Here we're going to use the Theosis targeting the Unicorn. This is going to summon out our Fenrir. Now, the Fenrir here, because we already have the Rise Heart, we can go ahead and search either the Scareclaw Kashtira or the Tearlament's Kashtira. So it's a little hard to decide which one if you don't know the matchup. If it's blind, I feel like it's safer to go for the Kashtira Scareclaw, but if you know that your opponent isn't going to benefit off you milling their deck, then you want to go for this Kashtira Tearlament. So let's show you guys that one. So we're going to assume you're not against anything that they want you to mill them. So we're going to go ahead and use the Fenrir to grab the Tearlaments. Here we can go ahead and overlay into the copy of Shangri-Ira, and we're going to do things the same that we have so far. We're going to go ahead and special summon the Rise Heart, and the Rise Heart is going to go ahead and banish the Big Bang. That is going to banish the top 3 of our opponent's deck face down, making Shangri-Ira chain 1 and Big Bang chain 2. Now, Big Bang is going to add 1 of the material to hand, and then special summon it, and Shangri-Ira locks a zone, so we are at 1 zone locked. Now what we can do here is we can go ahead and overlay the Rise Heart into our copy of a Rise Heart, and that is going to allow us to make sure that we have a Rise Heart live before our opponent ever even starts their turn, because now we can use the Kashtira either Tearlament or Scareclaw, again depending on which we added, to summon it out and banish the Theosis from our graveyard. Now this is going to do a couple of things. In this case, a Rise Heart has to be mandatory chain 1 because it's mandatory, so we'll be able to attach a card that is banished. Then we can make the Kashtira Tearlament chainlink 2. We can banish the top 3 cards of our opponent's deck to the grave because this is now making every card banished. And then chainlink 3 Theosis is going to go ahead and add Big Bang back to our hand. So resolving the chain backwards, Big Bang goes to hand, the Tearlaments will mill 3 cards, and then we will attach the Theosis to our Kashtira or Rise Heart. Now, because we still have 2 7s on board, we can go ahead and overlay them into the copy of Mind Hacker. And what we can do now is use the Mind Hacker. We're going to go ahead and detach a card. It's going to get banished because this is a Macrocosmos. We look at our opponent's deck and banish a card face down. That will trigger Shangri-Ira as chainlink 1 and Diablosis as chainlink 2. We will banish 4 more cards face down because they only have 4 face down, and we will lock a second zone on a new chain because a card, or actually, my bad, let me backtrack. On the previous chain, this has to be chainlink 1 because this was banished. So we're going to go ahead and do that backwards. We're going to banish 4 more, lock our second zone, and attach the Tearlament. So now we have a Rise Heart live, but in a new chain, this will also lock a 3rd zone because the Diablosis banished cards face down. So now what we have is we have 3 zones locked. We ripped an extra deck card out of our opponent's hand. We have a macro that is already live for the once per turn banish, and we can set Kashtira Big Bang to our side of the field and pass the turn to our opponent. On our opponent's standby, we can't forget the Shangri-Ira. That is going to go ahead and summon a Fenrir from our deck to our side of the field, and now we pretty much guarantee that we lock all 5 zones, because as soon as we banish something face down with the Rise Heart, another zone gets locked off of the Shangri-Ira, and as soon as we banish something off of the Fenrir, another zone gets locked. That is all 5 zones locked, and you have your full board. And for the final combo, what I want to show you guys is I want to show you guys a 3-card combo that allows you to play around Nibiru, and I just want to say that this, the Ash Blossom can be interchangeable for any of the level 3 tuners you might play. I know that some people are also playing the Ghost Mourner, but let's show you guys what it is actually going to be. We're going to start off our turn by special summoning out the Unicorn because we control no monsters, and things are going to differ here. We're not actually going to activate the effect just yet. We are instead going to normal summon out the Ash Blossom, and that is going to allow us to use the Ash Blossom and the Unicorn to sync into a copy of Baron de Flor as our 3rd summon. So now we are Nibiru proof, which is very, very important because Nibiru is something that really destroys this deck. Next, we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Birth, which we can go ahead and reborn the Unicorn from our graveyard, and that is then going to let us use our Unicorn to search for our Theosis. Here, the combo is pretty much going to be the same as always. We're going to Theosis target the Unicorn. This is going to summon out our Fenrir, and then the Fenrir can go ahead and summon out, or search out our Rise Heart. Here we're going to overlay both the Fenrir and the Unicorn into our copy of Shangri-Ira, and then we are going to special summon our Rise Heart and use its effect to banish the Big Bang. Again, this is going to activate Shangri-Ira as Chainlink 1 and Big Bang as Chainlink 2. Big Bang is going to go ahead and add us out either the Unicorn or the Fenrir, does not matter, and we're going to go ahead and special summon it, and then we're going to go ahead and lock a zone on our opponent's side of the field. Now, we are going to have a split line of play here, so again, you can consider this multiple different combos. If we want to add on, or if we want to end on more overall interruptions, we go ahead and we overlay the Rise Heart into the Arise Heart, and that is going to end on one zone locked with a Baron to floor, a Macro Cosmo on legs, which will eventually become its own interruption, and then during the standby phase, the Shangri-Ira is going to special summon a Unicorn, meaning that we will be able to lock additional zones when both the, or a Fenrir, when both the Fenrir and the Unicorn activate its effects on our opponent's turn, or if we wanted to backtrack a little bit, and we decide we want more zones locked instead, we can go ahead and go into the Diablosis, which you guys know how this works already. We can go ahead and detach, banish a card face down. This will banish more, or this will lock 2 more zones. This will banish more cards. Now we have 3 zones locked under a Baron as well. And if we even wanted to, again, if we're not worried about the zone locks, we can just go ahead and overlay this into the Arise Heart. So hopefully that's not too confusing for you guys. It does have 3 different endings. So yeah, there you guys have it. And that is going to be my must-know combo tutorial for Kashtira. I'm not even sure how many combos I actually showed you. It's like either 5 or 6, but several of them had different endings, so we can even call it like 8 or 9 combos, but hopefully you guys learned something. This deck is a very strong deck, especially with the new ban list that we just got being effective in a week from, what is it, a week from 2 days ago, so we've got 5 days until that list is legal, so this is obviously a very, very strong contender moving into the next format. Hopefully you guys learned and enjoyed these combos. If you did, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. One thing that I do want to say, because a lot of people ask, is anytime I post a deck profile, the side deck does go on my Patreon, so for the lowest tier, you can always see that as well, plus it helps support the channel, which I would always appreciate. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.